Right side. Might as well talk over there. Hopefully some more will come. Go ahead, open up.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done in earth,
thy will be done on earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread,
Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our debts,
and forgive us our debts,
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
and the power,
and the power,
and the glory,
and the glory,
forever.
forever.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord,
For he is good.
for he is good,
For his mercy endureth forever.
for his mercy endures forever.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
Praise the Lord God of Israel,
For he is good.
for he is good,
For his mercy endureth forever.
for his mercy endures forever.
The Lord of lords,
Lord of lords,
and King of kings,
King of kings,
the mighty one of Jacob,
the mighty one of Jacob,
and the holy one of Israel.
the Holy One of Israel.
In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Today's scripture reading comes from Psalms 105, verses 1 through 4. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord. Call upon his name. Make known his deeds among the people. Sing unto him. Sing songs unto him. Talk ye of all his wondrous works. Glory ye in his holy name. Let the heart of them rejoice that seek the Lord. Seek the Lord and his strength. Seek his face evermore. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading, hearing, and doing of his word. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Praise the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And peace be unto you in the name of Jesus. Peace to everyone that's watching on Facebook Live. And hopefully this makes it on YouTube. It's a blessing to stand before you today on the Lord's Sabbath day. Welcome to all the newcomers to Israel Church of Jesus, where we teach line upon line, precept upon precept to get understanding of the matter. Today, it's not a lesson for newcomers. I'm going to try to make it as elementary as I can. And it might be a little bit of a long lesson, long for me, because y'all know I only do lessons. My lessons usually like an hour, 20 minutes, hour, 30 minutes. But this might be a 2-hour lesson, might be. As long as I take my time with it and explains things thoroughly, this might be a 2-hour lesson. Who's that? Titus? I'm hearing babies. Is that Titus? But yeah, today the lesson I titled it, The Rise and Fall of the Kingdoms of Babylon. The Rise and Fall of the Kingdoms of Babylon. And yeah, we know that, we have a lot of individuals that talk about Babylon, that speak about Babylon, and they try to say America is Babylon, or whatever case may be, they try to come up with, they try to have different kingdoms be inside of Babylon. Like some of them try to say that Medes and the Persians are 2 separate kingdoms. So, and they don't count Rome. They count Medes and Persia as 2 separate kingdoms. So people don't really understand Babylon as far as a whole empire reigning from the actual king of Babylon to Rome, who is, all of it represents Babylon. It's all a state, a Gentile dynasty. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about each kingdom, their rise and their fall. We can't really get into Rome too much because the Bible don't talk about Rome rise, but it absolutely talks about its fall. So we're going to talk about these things into details, and hopefully you get some understanding of the matter, because this is absolutely important, so we understand that we are at the end. And not only are we at the end, we are be able to gird ourselves and know what type of spirit we're dealing with when we're dealing with the false prophet. But we're going to pick this up in Isaiah 46 real quick. Isaiah 46, and we're going to pick it up at verse 9. Before we get in the lesson, there's a few things I want to talk about, because the stuff that I'm about to deal with, like I said, is meat. It's not an easy lesson, but I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible. Isaiah 46 and verse 9. Isaiah 46, verse 9. Go ahead.
Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is none else.
So we all know there's only one God, and that one God is a family of two individuals, and hopefully more. Well, it will be more. Hopefully we make it into it. But this is Elohim here, saying he is God, and there is none else. Keep going.
I am God, and there is none like me.
And there is none like him. Keep going.
Declaring the end from the beginning.
So off top, we see that he declares the end from the beginning. So a lot of the stuff that we're reading, we have to understand that it is way before the time that it brought about. Like, for example, in Jeremiah, I believe it is, Jeremiah prophesied of Cyrus years before Cyrus even came about. And the same thing with Daniel, the same thing with, also in Jeremiah, we are going to read that Jeremiah prophesied the end of Babylon before Babylon even came forth. It was still the Assyrians trying to take over everything. But Jeremiah talked about the end of Babylon. So we see that the Lord, it says, declaring the end from the beginning, he is God. Go ahead.
And from ancient times, the things that are not yet done.
And we're going to read Revelation. And Revelation was written years ago, about 2,000 years ago. And these things are still not taking place yet. It's still not here yet. Matter of fact, in Revelation, we will read that John wrote about the beast, saying it was there, it's not here, and it is yet, or something of that sort. But the beast was actually running things at the time, but it was prophesying that it's not even around, but it's going to come back later on. So we see that the Lord is talking about things of ancient times that are not yet done. Saying what?
Saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure.
Keep going.
Calling a ravenous bird from the east, the man that executeth my counsel from a far country. Yea, I have spoken it, I will also bring it to pass.
So once he's spoken it, he bring it to pass. Very rarely do he say something and repent from what he has to say. That I can read. He repented from the things he had to say when it come down to us, getting rid of us. That's pretty much it. Once he say it, that's it. Go ahead.
I have purposed it, I will also do it.
Hearken
unto me, ye stout-hearted, that are far from the righteousness. I bring near my righteousness, it shall not be far off.
Keep going.
And my salvation shall not tarry. And I will place salvation in Zion for Israel, my glory.
Now let's go to Job. Let's go to Job 33. This is not in here either. But let's go to Job 33. There's something else I want to have us read. Because God is, to try to be simple as possible, God is smart. Right? He is super, super smart. So he will say things, and he'll have double meanings, triple meanings. And that's why it's good for us to continue reading the Bible, because every time we read the Bible, it's like, oh, snaps, this match with this too, and this match with this. But we have to understand that when we read the scriptures, a lot of times the answers or what it is that God is talking about is right in front of our face, but we try to make it fit other things. Okay? Not necessarily saying that those other things are wrong, because he have double meaning when he do talk, but nevertheless, the most specific or the most clear picture is right in front of our face. But Job 33, and pick it up at verse 14. 33 and verse 14. Go ahead.
For God speaketh once, yea, twice, yet man perceiveth it not.
He said, for God speaketh once, yeah, twice, yet man perceiveth it not. Pretty much he's saying there's double meanings in what he is saying, but we don't understand it. God will say something, like for example, one of the things we're going to dig into is a very controversial subject, because people in their apocryphal hatred, but nevertheless it's in the Bible, And we can also attribute it to the man of sin, the abomination of desolation, out of the fourth kingdom. But nevertheless, it's talking about a specific person. But it said, for God speaketh once, yet twice, yet men don't perceive it. Because God don't do anything, everything that he done before, he will do it again the same way, right? We can read that in Ecclesiastes, and nothing new under the sun. So what he did in the past, that's how he's going to do in the future. That's how we know that God's going to take Israel out of captivity, because he did it before. Now let's go to 2 Kings 20. So now we have that foundation. Now we're going to go to 2 Kings 20, and we're going to get into the rise and fall of the kingdom of Babylon. 2 Kings 20. So we jumping in when Israel is on top, but we are declining. We are declining because the Lord put it on us because Solomon messed up. And we continue to mess up after Solomon. So 2 Kings 20 and verse 1. 2 Kings 20 and verse 1. Go ahead.
In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death.
So Hezekiah was a good king, and he was sick unto death. He was absolutely sick. Kind of like how some brothers and sisters right now are sick with this COVID thing. He is sick unto death. Go ahead.
And the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amoz, came to him and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, set thine house in order, for thou shalt die and not live.
So the Lord told Isaiah to go tell Hezekiah that you were about to die. Because life and death is in God's hands. That's who you have to fear. Life and death is in God's hands. Verse 2.
Then he turned his face to the wall and prayed unto the Lord, saying.
And immediately he turned to the Lord once he was told that he was going to die. He didn't really go to no doctor. He didn't really do anything else. Not saying that these doctors are not here for our benefit, but he understands who's controlling life and who's controlling death. Immediately as he heard that he was about to die, he sat there and he turned his face to the wall and started praying to the Lord and saying what?
I beseech thee, O Lord, remember now how I have walked before thee in truth and with a perfect heart.
And something going on to learn something as we learn it, he said, I have walked before thee in truth and with perfect heart. He didn't just say, Lord, I believe in your name. He walked. So there's some works that have to be done with all this. Kind of like Elijah lesson he did last night. There's works, and Hezekiah is about to die, and the Lord started pleading, and Hezekiah started pleading with the Lord about his works. I beseech thee, O Lord, remember now that I have walked before thee in truth. Keep going.
And have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore.
Keep going.
And it came to pass, afore Isaiah was gone out in the middle of court, that the word of the Lord came to him, saying.
So he understood that he had those walks. So the Lord sent Isaiah back in to change his mind. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Turn again and tell Hezekiah the captain of my people. Thus saith the Lord, the God of David thy father, I have heard thy prayer. I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will heal thee. On the third day thou shalt go up unto the house of the Lord. And I will add unto thy days 15 years. And I will deliver thee and this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria. And I will defend this city for mine own sake.
So the reason why we're reading all of this is because one of the things I want to get to you is that Assyria was on the way of controlling the whole world. So one of the kingdoms that had to take control of was Judah. And that's why we had Sennacherib and all these individuals at the door of Judah trying to take it over. So Babylon was not here yet. Babylon wasn't at its forefront yet. But yet the Lord going to start talking about Babylon. Keep on.
And for my servant David's sake. And Isaiah said, take a lump of figs. And they took and laid it on the boil, and he recovered. And Hezekiah said unto Isaiah, what shall be the sign that the Lord will heal me, and that I shall go up into the house of the Lord the third day? And Isaiah said, this sign shalt thou have of the Lord, that the Lord will do the thing that he hath spoken.
So he asked for a sign that this is actually going to work. And the sign that he used was the shadow going back and forth 10 degrees. Going back and forth 10 degrees. Keep going.
Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees, or go back 10 degrees? And Hezekiah answered, It is a light thing for the shadow to go down 10 degrees. Nay, but let the shadow return backward 10 degrees. And Isaiah the prophet cried unto the Lord, and he brought the shadow 10 degrees backward, by which it had gone down in the dial of Ahaz.
All right, so verse 12 is where we're getting at. Verse 12, go ahead.
At that time, Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon.
So we now be talking about an individual, the king of Babylon, that we usually don't hear of. Because this is during a time Babylon wasn't at its full power yet. But the Lord is talking about it. Because Babylon and Israel was cool at the time. And Hezekiah was sick. And this individual was sending him peace offerings and letters, trying to lift up his spirit. So this time he presented, this individual, the king of Babylon, sent letters and presented to Hezekiah. Keep going.
For he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. And Hezekiah hearkened unto them and showed them all the house of his precious things.
So Hezekiah, after being healed, looking out for the king of Babylon, he ended up showing him everything that was in his house, showing how rich that Judah was, how much money that it had. Go ahead.
The silver and the gold, the spices and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasures. There was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah showed them not.
So Hezekiah showed him everything. Verse 14.
Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah, and said unto him, What said these men? And from whence came they unto thee?
Isaiah like, man, who are these dudes? And what did he say?
And Hezekiah said, They are come from a far country, even from Babylon.
Before Babylon was actually Babylon, before Nebuchadnezzar was running, before their conquest, like I said, they were Judah and them was cool. So he let him know, yeah, these are the homies from Babylon that came by. I was showing my spot. Verse 15.
And he said, What have they seen in thine house?
Uh-huh.
And Hezekiah answered, All the things that are in mine house have they seen.
That's kind of like, consider it as, you got a homeboy over your house, you bring him over your house, and you got some jewelry, you got some things that's nice, and you showing them everything, like, yeah, man, I'm doing it, bro. You see what I'm doing? You see what I'm doing? And Isaiah ended up telling them, like, yeah, they're going to get you. All that stuff that you got, they're going to come back and get it. Go ahead.
There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them.
I showed them everything. Go ahead.
And Isaiah said unto Hezekiah, Hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store unto this day, shall be carried into Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord.
So he said because of all this, understand that everything that you showed will be taken to Babylon. Verse 18, and what else?
And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon.
So they're going to end up serving Babylon. And all this happened in Isaiah's day. Isaiah did not pass before this came about. Now we'll go to Jeremiah 25. We're going to forget the last three. Let's go to Jeremiah 25 now. So we see that the rise of Babylon was foretold before they even hit the scene. The king of Assyria was still wreaking havoc. Matter of fact, to be honest, before Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Assyria and Babylon battled a few times, and Assyria continued to beat them. So it wasn't as if they wasn't trying to rule. They just didn't have it all together yet. Jeremiah 25 and verse 1. Jeremiah 25 and verse 1. Go ahead.
The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah. That was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon.
So this is the 1st year that king of Babylon was ruling. All right, this was before Nebuchadnezzar actually went on his conquest to start taking over Israel and Moab and Ammon. This is just his first year. The northern tribe, Israel, was already in captivity because of Assyria. And by this time, when Nebuchadnezzar is a king, Assyria was already defeated. So they was on their rise. Verse 2.
The which Jeremiah the prophet spake unto all the people of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, From the 13th year of Josiah the son of Ammon, king of Judah, even unto this day, that is the 23rd year, the word of the Lord hath come unto me, and I have spoken unto you, rising early and speaking, but ye have not hearkened.
So the Lord been sending prophets, but they have not been listening to the prophets. Keep going.
And the Lord hath sent unto you all his servants, the prophets, rising early and sending them, but ye have not hearkened, nor inclined your ear to hear. They said, Turn ye again now every one from his evil way.
So that's the thing. The Lord is asking you to turn, and you're not turning. So because of that, he's going to send some evil upon you. Turn ye now everyone again from the evil way. Keep going.
And from the evil of your doing.
And from the evil of your doing, because it's all about works. Keep going.
And dwell in the land that the Lord hath given unto you and to your fathers forever and ever.
Verse 6.
And go not after other gods.
That's the first commandment. Have no other gods before me. So the Lord just sending these prophets and asking them just to do the normal things, but they rather not do it. They rather celebrate Christmas and Easter or Ashtaroth and all those other things. They said in the book, don't tell us those things, tell us smooth things, prophesy lies and deceit. So they rather hear and deal with the conspiracy of the prophets rather than submit to God. Go ahead.
And go not after other gods to serve them and to worship them, and provoke me not to anger with the works of your hands, and I will do you no hurt.
But I will do you no hurt. But what?
Yet ye have not hearkened unto me, saith
that's
the Lord.
how it is. Since sin is not executed speedily, the hearts of men is set on them to do wickedness. That's what it said in Ecclesiastes. That's the same thing that's happening now. The Lord said keep the Sabbath, but we don't want to keep the Sabbath. And because we're not being tormented or killed right then and there like that God did in Numbers, we think it's okay. But nevertheless, it was not okay back then, and it's not now. It said, yet ye have not hearkened unto me, said the Lord. Go ahead.
That ye might provoke me to anger with the works of your hands to your own hurt.
To your own hurt. Because it's not benefiting me. The Sabbath day was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Right. Verse 8.
Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, because ye have not heard my words, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, saith the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant.
His servant. So in this specific instance, he is known as the Lord's servant. Now, he never served God. He never followed the commandments. Matter of fact, because he was high and puffed up, the Lord had to humble him. So he wasn't per se dealing with the God of the Bible, but the Lord called him his servant because the Lord sent him on Israel to do us hurt. Behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, said the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and will bring them against this land, which is Israel. Go ahead.
And against the inhabitants thereof, and against all these nations round about, and will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment, and a hissing, and a perpetual desolation.
And a perpetual desolation, a hissing. Verse 10.
Moreover, I will take from them the voice of myrrh, and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstones, and the light of the candle. And this whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment. And these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years.
So the Lord, even before Nebuchadnezzar is at his high point, the Lord is letting you know that, hey, Babylon will be ruling over you for 70 years. And this will become an issue in Daniel's time, but the Lord opened it up for Daniel. But nevertheless, like I said, like Isaiah said, like we read in Job, the Lord had double meaning. Actually, Babylon did rule for 70 years. But nevertheless, the whole nation or the whole dynasty of the Babylon took 490 years. Maybe a little bit more than that because it stopped. It stopped a few times. It stopped until the temple was built, and we still on pause now. Because when Jesus Christ died, it stopped in the midst of the week. So at least 490 years plus. But I'll worry about that when I get there. But it said you'd be running for 70 years. So all this was told of Babylon. This is the rise of Babylon. Babylon rose because of our mistakes. Because we didn't want to do what the Lord said. Now let's go to Jeremiah 27. Jeremiah 27 and verse 12. So now Babylon is in the land doing things. It's setting up puppets. But yet you have false prophets running around telling you, don't hearken to Babylon, continue to revolt, and continue to fight. And because of that, Nebuchadnezzar continued to come down and beat up on us. So that's what we're about to read right now. Jeremiah 27 and verse 12. Go ahead.
I spake also to Zedekiah, king of Judah, according to all these words, saying, bring your necks under the yoke of the king of Babylon, and serve him as his people, and live.
So he's telling you, Jeremiah is letting you know that he talked to Zedekiah and told him to serve Babylon. But what?
Why will ye die, thou and thy people, by the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence, as the Lord hath spoken against the nation that will not serve the king of Babylon?
Because God controlling this. So if you serve, God called him my servant. So you serve him is as if you're serving me. Kind of like this situation we're in right now. Cops killing us, all these bad things happen. And hey, a lot of the times they're killing us on some false pretense. They shouldn't be killing us at all. None of this stuff should be happening. And we are absolutely in some type of bondage. But nevertheless, we do put a lot of it upon ourselves as well. But that's why we're supposed to hearken unto the kings that power right now. And we can read that and be hearkening to them to an extent. We won't go against what the Lord say for their benefit. But nevertheless, I won't run the stoplight because they say don't run the stoplight. I could run a stoplight and get shot. Nevertheless, I still do it. Playing with death. He said, I spake also to Zedekiah, king of Judah, according to all these words, saying, bring your necks under the yoke of the king of Babylon and serve him and his people and live. Verse 13.
Why will ye die, thou and thy people, by the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence, as the Lord hath spoken against the nation, and will not serve the king of Babylon? 14. Therefore hearken not unto the words of the prophets that speak unto you, saying, ye shall not serve the king of Babylon. So that's something that you have to understand, that the Lord always going to have his people telling you what thus said the Lord, and Satan will always have his people as well, telling you to do something opposite. So that was what's going on at this time, that you had these prophets telling Zedekiah to don't serve him, rebel against him, but yet you had Jeremiah and Isaiah was like, nah, serve him. But yet they continue to hearken to the false prophets and lie to them. Verse 15. For I have not sent them, saith the Lord, yet they prophesy a lie in my name, that I might drive you out, and that ye might perish, ye and the prophets that prophesy unto you. Also I spake to the priests and to all this people, saying, thus saith the Lord, hearken not to the words of your prophets that prophesy unto you, saying. And he's saying the same thing to us now. Hearken not to the false prophets that tell you you can do Christmas, or you can eat pork, or it's cool for homosexuals to do what they do. Don't hearken unto them. It's the same thing that's going on today. So like I said, it's a double meaning. Go ahead. Behold, the vessels of the Lord's house shall now shortly be brought again from Babylon, for they prophesy a lie unto you. And because you don't want to consider what I'm saying, Babylon is actually going to take everything that's in your house, like the Lord prophesied to Hezekiah years before. Now it's going to happen because you're not listening to him. Go ahead. 17. Hearken not unto them. Serve the king of Babylon and live. Wherefore should this city be laid waste? But if they be prophets, and if the word of the Lord be with them, let them now make intercession to the Lord of hosts, that the vessels which are left in the house of the Lord, and in the house of the king of Judah, and at Jerusalem, go not to Babylon. Because a lot of this stuff has already been taken to Babylon. Zedekiah was the last king that set up, but there was many kings before then that every time Babylon came down there and took them into hostage, and
the Babylon set up a different king, he would take all the vessels of gold, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So some of it was already in there, and now Jeremiah was like, now you're going to have the rest of the stuff up in there. Go ahead.
19. For thus saith the Lord of hosts concerning the pillars, and concerning the sea, and concerning the bases, and concerning the residue of the vessels that remain in this city, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, took not, when he carried away captive Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, from Jerusalem to Babylon, and all the nobles of Judah and Jerusalem. Yea, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, concerning the vessels that remain in the house of the Lord, and in the house of the king of Judah and of Jerusalem. They shall be carried to Babylon, and there shall they be until the day that I visit them, saith the Lord.
So they're going to stay there until the 70 years is finished. Go ahead.
Then will I bring them up and restore them to this place.
And then he's going to bring them up and restore them to the place. So he's letting you know what's happening before it even happened. So we have to take that into consideration for us in this day. Now let's go to Ezekiel 17. Ezekiel 17. And we're going to pick it up at verse 11. So right now, like I said, we're dealing with the rise of Babylon. The Babylon as a nation specific. Not the whole, well, of course it's a double meaning, so we all dealing with the whole Gentile dynasty as well. But we talk about the specific nation, Babylon. We talk about their rise. And this is what happened. This is towards the end when they took everybody into captivity except for Jeremiah and a few other poor people. Ezekiel 17 and 11. Go ahead.
Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Say now to the rebellious house, Know ye not what these things mean? Tell them, Behold, the king of Babylon is come to Jerusalem, and hath taken the king thereof, and the princes thereof, and led them with him to Babylon. And hath taken of the king's seed, and made a covenant with him, and hath taken an oath of him. He hath also taken the mighty of the land.
Made an oath with Zedekiah. Go ahead.
That the kingdom might be base, that it might not lift itself up, but that by keeping of his covenant it might stand.
So if you were to continue doing what Babylon said, it might have stand. Verse 15.
But he rebelled against him in sending his ambassadors into Egypt.
So that's how we end up rebelling, because we were supposed to serve Babylon. We were supposed to serve Babylon, but Babylon was fighting against Assyria, was fighting against Egypt. And so what happened was Zedekiah was like, hey, I'm going to run to Egypt and ask for their help, and I will give them some merchandise. Babylon got word of it and started whooping up on everybody. Start whooping up on everybody. It's kind of like when, like my son gonna tell somebody else that I whoop him. I'm gonna whoop you and him and everybody else. That's pretty much what happened here. Like, what are you gonna tell who? Bring Mr. Such and such here. Go ahead, keep going.
That they might give him horses and much people. Shall he prosper? Shall he escape that doeth such things? Or shall he break the covenant and be delivered? As I live, saith the Lord God, surely in the place where the king dwelleth, that made him king, whose oath he despised, and whose covenant he brake, even him in the midst of Babylon he shall die.
So Zedekiah would die in the midst of Babylon. Go ahead.
Neither shall Pharaoh with his mighty army.
And Pharaoh ain't going to help either. You went to go try to get Pharaoh to help you out. He won't help either. So neither Pharaoh with his mighty army and great company make for him in war. Keep going.
By casting up mountains and building forts to cut off many persons. Seeing he despised the oath by breaking the covenant, when lo, he had given his hand and had done all these things, and he shall not escape. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, as I live, surely mine oath that he hath despised, and my covenant that he hath broken, even it will I recompense upon his own head.
Upon his own head. Go ahead.
And I shall spread my net upon him, and he shall be taken in my snare. And I will bring him to Babylon, and he will plead with him there for his trespass that he hath trespassed against me. And all his fugitives with all his bands shall fall by the sword. And they that remain shall be scattered toward all winds. And ye shall know that I, the Lord, have spoken it.
You shall know that I, the Lord, have spoken it. Now let's go back to Jeremiah 52. Jeremiah 52, and we're going to see this take place. So before it all happened, the Lord was talking about it's going to happen. Continue to give everybody some type of hope. Hey, turn back from your ways. Turn back from your ways. I'm going to kill you. Turn back from your ways. I'm going to kill you. The same thing he do to us. Hey, stop sinning. I'm going to kill you. Stop sinning. I'm going to kill you. They didn't hearken unto him, so the Lord killed them all, or a majority of them. Jeremiah 52, and pick it up at verse 1. Jeremiah 52 and verse 1. So this is everything taking place. Go ahead.
Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did that which was evil in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. And for through the anger of the Lord it came to pass in Jerusalem and Judah, till he had cast them out from his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon.
And now we know how he rebelled. Verse 4.
And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, came, he and all his army, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and built forts against it round about. So the city was besieged unto the 11th year of the king of Zedekiah.
Keep going.
And in the 4th month, in the 9th day of the month, the famine was sore in the city, so that there was no bread for the people of the land.
That's how I don't understand how people don't believe in the Bible, because this is actually history. Right. We can look into the history books, and they will say the exact same thing. And the Bible was written before the history books. Verse 7.
Then the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled, and went forth out of the city by night by the way of the gate between the two walls, which was by the king's garden. Now the Chaldeans were by the city round about.
And the Chaldeans is another word for the Babylonians, Babylon. You know, it was a bunch of different of them, but that's what they're talking about right here. Now the Chaldeans were by the city round about. Go ahead.
And they went by the way of the plain. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued after the king, and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him.
Keep going.
Then they took the king and carried him up unto the king of Babylon, to Riblah, and the land of Hamath, where he gave judgment upon him. And the king of Babylon slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes.
So Babylon killed all his, Nebuchadnezzar killed Zedekiah's son right before his eyes, and then after that took his eyes out. So the last thing he ever saw was his sons dying. Now that's some type of hatred right there. Go ahead.
He slew all the princes of Judah in Riblah. Then he put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and the king of Babylon bound him in chains and carried him to Babylon and put him in prison to the day of his death.
To the day of his death. Go ahead.
Now in the 5th month, in the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, which served the king of Babylon in Jerusalem.
And let's see what he did. Verse 13.
And burned the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and
so
all
that beautiful temple that Solomon made, the beautiful house that the king was made, and everything else was burned down by this captain. Burned down to the ground. Nothing else was there. Go ahead.
And all the houses of the great men burned he with fire. And all the army of the Chaldeans that were with the captain of the guard brake down all the walls of Jerusalem round about. And Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive certain of the poor of the people, and the residue of the people that remained in the city, and those that fell away, that fell to the king of Babylon, and the rest of the multitude.
So he carried everybody away, a majority of the people away. He left Jeremiah there. That's how Jeremiah wrote Lamentations, and a few other people he left there as well. But he took majority of everybody away. And what else did he take? Go ahead.
16. But Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, left certain of the poor of the land for vine dressers and for husbandmen. Also the pillars of brass that were in the house of the Lord, and the bases, and the brazen sea that was in the house of the Lord, The Chaldeans brake and carried all the brass of them to Babylon.
Just like the Lord said, all the treasures and everything that was in Babylon, they took it out. And they carried it right back to Babylon. Verse 18.
The cauldrons also, and the shovels, and the snuffers, and the bowls, and the spoons, and all the vessels of brass wherewith they ministered, took they away. And the basins, and the fire pans, and the bowls, and the cauldrons, and the candlesticks, and the spoons, and the cups, that which was of gold in gold, that which was of silver in silver, took the captain of the guard away.
They didn't leave anything. Verse 20.
The 2 pillars, 1 sea, and 12 brazen bowls that were under the bases, which King Solomon had made in the house of the Lord. The brass of all these vessels was without weight. And concerning the pillars, the height of one pillar was 18 cubits, and the fillet of 12 cubits did compass it. And the thickness thereof was 4 fingers. It was hollow.
And we can continue reading. And it will tell you other things that it takes. And also that he killed all the priests and all the leaders. Matter of fact, skip down to verse 26. Verse 26. Go ahead.
So Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took him and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah. And the king of Babylon smote them and put them to death in Riblah in the land of Hamath. Thus Judah was carried away captive out of his own land.
So they was taken out of their own land, just like how the Lord prophesied. Go ahead.
This is the people whom Nebuchadrezzar carried away captive. In the 7th year, 3,000 Jews and 23.
So he carried away 3,000 Jews and 3 and 20. So 23. So 3,023 Jews. He carried away out of Judah into Babylon. 29.
In the 8th year of Nebuchadrezzar, he carried away.
In the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar, he carried away. So the Lord told through the mouth of Jeremiah when Nebuchadnezzar was in his first year that all this was going to happen. 17 years later, it happened. So he gave them some time to repent, but they never repented. Then it all ended up happening. In the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar, he carried away captive from Jerusalem 832 persons. So that's, and then what?
In the 23rd year of Nebuchadrezzar, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away the captive of the Jews, 745 persons. All the persons were 4,600.
So everything added up was 4,600 who he all had taken out. Now let's go to 2 Chronicles 36. So we saw that the Lord prophesied it, and it happened. But this is the rise and fall of the kingdom of Babylon. Not just as a nation, but as a dynasty. 2 Chronicles 36. And we're picking up at verse 20. We got 2 verses. 2 verses. Now we're going to see what happened after the 70 years. Before we even get to it, the Lord already prophesied. Go ahead.
And them that had escaped from the sword carried he away to Babylon, where they were servants to him and his sons until the reign of the king of Persia.
So that's what happened next. The reign of the king of Persia, they end up taking over next. Go ahead.
21. To fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths. For as long as she lay desolate, she kept Sabbath, to fulfill 70 years.
Which is 70 years. So now let's see this take place. So let's see this visit take place. Let's go to Daniel 2. Let's go to Daniel 2. And this is where the Gentile dynasty as a whole is brought forth. And we can follow along the timeline with the kingdoms that's ruling from here on. Daniel 2, and we pick it up at verse 1. We're going to be in Daniel a lot. We're going to be in Daniel a lot, so we might as well hold a marker there so we can get to it quick. Daniel 2 and verse 1. Go ahead.
And in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him.
All right, so he was dreaming dreams, and his sleep broke from him. So it's a terrible dream. Go ahead.
2. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac.
All right, so they spoke to the Chaldeans. They spoke to the king in a different language, Syriac. Some say that it's another form of Aramaic. Go ahead.
O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the thing is gone from me.
So imagine that. Somebody say, hey, tell me my dream. Man, I don't know. I don't know what it is. So so that's how you know that God is the God of dreams. God is the God of dreams. God is the God of all things. Because you have these musicians and these astrologers and these sorcerers who's supposed to be all knowledge and all knowing, was confronted to tell a dream that they did not have any idea of, and if they didn't, the king was going to kill them. So the Lord put everybody on Front Street, so the king would be forced to come to the captives, so we would be able to tell them what the Lord said. So that's what's happening now. He's telling them that, hey, tell my dreams, and they couldn't tell him what it was. And he said, if you don't, I'm going to kill you. Go ahead.
If you do not make known unto me the dream, with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill.
So not only do you tell me the dream, you also tell me what my dream meant. And I'm not going to give you no help, because I can't help you. I don't know what it means. Verse 6.
But if ye show the dream, and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof.
Keep going.
They answered again and said, let the king tell his servants the dreams, and we will show the interpretation of it. The king answered and said, I know of a certainty that ye would gain the time, because ye see the thing is gone from me. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you. For ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the time be changed. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation thereof.
He was like, I ain't trying to give you no time, because if I give you some time, you'd be liable to tell me anything, and I might just believe you, because I don't want to know what it is. So you tell me it right now, or else. Verse 10.
The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter.
He's right. There is not a man, but there's a God that can. Go ahead.
Therefore, there is no king, Lord, no ruler, that asks such things at any magician or astrologer or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, that there is none other that can show it before the king, except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh.
And that's who they went to. They ended up going to get to a captive. They went to go get a captive, and he let you know, let me ask of my God. And that's the same thing that's going on now. That's how we know what the end is going to be. Because, hey, we got a God who can tell us everything. But they don't come to the captives. So they're going to continue doing what they're doing until it all comes to a head. Go ahead.
Verse 12. For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain.
And that's the funny part. Like they say, hey, the blacks is what? The last hired, the first fired? So the first one that was going to die was Daniel, was Israel. He was the first one that was going to die. Skip down to verse 24. Skip down to verse, matter of fact, 31. Skip down to verse 31. So Daniel asked the king, hey, give me just a little bit so I can ask the God to tell you the dream. God came through, and now Daniel is telling Nebuchadnezzar the dream. Daniel 2 and 31, go ahead.
Thou, O king, sawest and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible.
32.
This image's head was of fine gold.
So he saw an image in his dream that scared him. And the head of the image was fine gold. And what else?
His breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay.
So this image that he's seen has different sections of the same image that is color-coded. And these colors or these materials, these metals, let you know different kingdoms. Go ahead.
34. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces.
And also what you see is, starting from the head all the way to the toes, the strength of these precious metals start to diminish. It start off with gold, then it goes to silver, and then it go to brass, and then the legs was iron, and the feet is iron and clay. And we know iron and clay don't mix. So it lets you know how unstable the last kingdom is. Verse 35.
Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth.
So this stone became a great mountain that filled the whole earth. Now, we don't have to sit around and meditate on what this means, because the Bible interprets itself. Verse 36.
This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings.
Go ahead.
For the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory.
38.
And whosoever the children of men, and wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold.
So we see that Nebuchadnezzar and the king, in the kingdom of Babylon, should I say, it is the head of gold. The kingdom of Babylon is the head of gold of this image. Go ahead.
39. And after thee shall rise another kingdom inferior to thee.
And it doesn't tell us who this kingdom is, but we already read in Chronicles that it was the Medes and the Persians. And they ran as one crew. There's two different kingdoms that ran at one crew. But they came up inferior. They are the brass. Go ahead.
And another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth.
They were silver, and the next one is brass, which is the Greek Empire. Go ahead.
40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes, part of the potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay.
So we all understand that iron is super strong, clay is weak, and that's how the kingdom is going to mix. You're going to have some strong nations and some weak nations. And not only that, the weak nations and some of the strong nations will hate the leader of the whole dynasty. So they will be weak in that aspect. Verse 42.
And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay.
So they won't be super tight. They won't be all together. Verse 44.
And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom.
In the days of these kings, of the one of iron mixed with clay, shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, and he is that stone that was cut off. Go ahead.
Which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to the other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
So we see in the hierarchy, and we see how the whole world is shaken up. You get 4 kingdoms that will rule the whole world, and after that, Jesus Christ will come and take over the land, and from that point on, it will be. Go ahead.
45. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure.
And it's sure. So that's what that dream was, and it lets you know of the Gentile dynasty. Now we're going to go to Daniel 7. Now we're going to Daniel 7. Because after that, years later, Nebuchadnezzar died, and now his grandson is ruling, Belshazzar. And now Daniel is about to have a dream, and the dream represents the kings of the kingdoms. That's what it represents, the kings of the kingdoms. So we still staying with the same plan, the same foundations of the 4 kingdoms ruling the world, but now he's about to get into detail about these specific kings. Daniel 7 and verse 1. And this is still in Babylonian Empire. Nebuchadnezzar Empire, should I say. 7 and 1, go ahead.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
So 4 winds came, and then 4 great beasts came from the sea, diverse from another. Verse 4.
The first was like a lion, and had an eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man.
So this right here is Nebuchadnezzar. This lion with the wings represent Nebuchadnezzar. And after he got puffed up, the Lord took his wings and made him become a man. Or made him act like an animal. That's why it says, I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made to stand upon the feet as a man. So the beast will stand upon the feet as a man, and the man's heart was given to it. And we can read this happening in Daniel. But that's what it represents. It represents Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 5.
And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear.
We already know who this beast is supposed to represent because of what we read. We cheated. We read 2 Chronicles 36, and we know it's the Medes and the Persians. So it says, and behold, another beast, a second like unto bear. So he described it as a bear. Go ahead.
And it raised up itself on one side.
And the reason why it's raised up on itself on one side, because one kingdom is going to be stronger than the other kingdom. The Persians are going to be stronger than the Medes eventually before the Medes and Persian kingdom disappears. So it says, and behold, the beast, second like unto bear, it raised up itself on one side, and what?
And it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it.
And those 3 ribs represents the 3 kingdoms that it conquered to be able to rule the whole world, which was Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. After they conquered these 3 countries, they had the title of ruling the world because they had all the strength and all the military power. So that was the 3 ribs in its mouth. Go ahead.
And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh.
Verse 6.
After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl.
And this leopard represents Alexander the Great because he took over the world extremely quick. He ended up dying when he was at the age of 32. My age. He already conquered the whole world. That's why he was a leopard with wings. Imagine a leopard with wings. That's how fast he took over the world. And what happened?
The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
Because after he died, 4 generals ended up taking control of his empire. So that's what the four heads represents. Like I said, this vision represents the kings of the kingdoms. Verse 7.
After this, I saw in the night visions.
And this is what I want to harp on, because we're going to read something similar to this in a different verse, but we have to understand who and what kingdom are we talking about. Right now it says, read that again.
7. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast.
So we're talking about what? A fourth beast. So we're not talking about the third beast, the second beast, or the first beast. This is the fourth beast. And what coming out of the fourth beast? Go ahead.
Dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly.
So this beast, he was so ugly, he doesn't have an animal in the animal kingdom to relate it to. All the other kingdoms have some type of animal they can relate it to, but this beast didn't have no animal to relate it to. But it was dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. Keep going.
And it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it.
Now it was so different from any other beast it was before. Keep going.
And it had 10 horns.
And this beast had 10 horns. Like I said, we don't have to explain anything. The Bible is going to explain it. Go ahead.
8. I considered the horns.
So he want to pay attention to these horns in this fourth beast. Go ahead.
And behold, there came up among them another little horn.
So out of the 10 horns, another little horn of the 10 horns came out. So altogether, that's what? 11 horns. It was 11 horns, but he see 10 horns, and another small horn came up. Go ahead.
Before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and beheld in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things.
So we know that this horn is a king, because all this stuff it represents kingdom, the kings of the kingdoms. And it said it had 10 horns. The 10 horns represent other kings of the kingdoms. You have the Herolines, the Vandals, the Ostrogoths, the Justinian Empire, Charlemagne, Otto, Charles V, Napoleon, Mussolini. You have all these, then you have the beast. So you have all these 10 horns. One of the horns wasn't all the way in its power yet, talking about the beast, but yet it still see it in this vision. But we see a little horn that sprung up 3 horns. That's what it says. It said, I consider the horns, and behold, there came among me another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up. So the Ostrogoths, the Vandals, and the Herolines were 3 kingdoms that the Pope absolutely slaughtered. Because the Pope let them know, serve me as vicar of Christ. If not, I'm going to kill you. They was like, we're not going to serve you. So the Lord killed them all. That's why we don't hear about them anymore. Or their kingdom. The kings or the kingdom. So the little horn is the office of the Pope. And he killed these 3 horns off. That's why it had the eyes of a man and a mouth speaking great things. Verse 9.
I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit.
And in this kingdom, the thrones or the kings was cast down, and the Ancient of Days, which is who? Jesus Christ. He will sit. Go ahead.
Whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire.
So we see that in the fourth kingdom, kind of like what we saw already in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, that after the fourth kingdom, the small stone will come up and start taking over everything. That's what we see in here. But we are going to focus on specifically, as of right now, the horns. So we're going to skip down to verse 15. Because we know who the Ancient of Days is, and we're going to go over his conquest when he started taking over the whole world and he started killing everybody. But let's see who these horns are, or what these horns are that's coming out the fourth kingdom. Coming out the fourth kingdom. Because you have some individuals that believe that the abomination of desolation has already happened. But we see abomination of desolation here that is speaking about coming out the fourth kingdom. Verse 15, go ahead.
I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit, in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this.
So he went to the angel and asked him the truth of it. Go ahead.
So he told me, and made me know the interpretation of the thing.
It's kind of like the lesson I did not so long ago. This is Gabriel who's doing all this stuff. The Holy Spirit. Go ahead.
17. These great beasts, which are four kings.
So these great beasts, which are four, right? And they what? There are four kings. So that's what it represents, like I said. Go ahead.
Which shall arise out of the earth.
18.
But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever.
So it's still on the same timeline as we read in Daniel 2, verse 19.
Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast.
So he want to know the details of this fourth beast. Because this fourth beast is something crazy, and he can't even understand it. So he want to know more details on this fourth beast. Go ahead.
Which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. So
he's letting you know of the horns he want to know about. Like, man, there was 10 horns, and then he said, and the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, which is that little horn, whom 3 fell. I already told you the nations that of them that fell. Of that horn that had eyes, and the mouth speaking great things, which is very stout. Right? It's very, the appearance was greater than all the other fellows, or all the other kingdoms. So we have the Pope, who has more of a say-so than all the other Roman kings. And we have lessons on why that happened and how that happened. But nevertheless, the Pope came out and said it. He was like, hey, no king can reign unless they have the blessing of the Vicar of Christ, which is himself. Christ's replacement. So that's how he ended up getting his power, because he pretty much said that all the kings have to get some type of religious blessing from him in order to rule. So every king had a pope as his sidekick, kind of like what's going to be in the future. You're going to have a beast and you're going to have a false prophet. It's going to be the same thing. But verse 21, I'm getting off track. Verse 21, he want to figure out what's going on with these little horns. 21, go ahead.
I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them.
So the Pope won't come after us eventually. Until what?
Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces.
Verse 24.
And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise.
10 kings which shall arise, right? So all those kings has not came forth yet when he gave this analogy or this dream. So we have to understand that the 10th beast has not came forth yet. Even to this day, he has not came forth yet. But we waiting on him. And this 10th beast will come forth, because we're going to see it in Revelation. But nevertheless, it says, go ahead, keep going.
And another shall arise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings.
Which is the Pope. That's what happened. That's what he did. All this stuff I'm saying is history. You can look it up. I don't really like putting too much history in my Bible as far as actual books. But after everything is said and done in question and answer, I can go over it and find it for you and look at it together. But all this stuff is in your encyclopedia. Like I said, it lines up with the Bible perfectly. So people want to tell you the Bible don't make sense. This is a big old history lesson. Go ahead.
25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws.
That's exactly what he did. The Lord says, In the evening, in the morning is the first day. The Pope said 12:01 is the first day. I mean, it's a new day. The Pope, the Lord said the seventh day is the Sabbath. The Pope said no, it's the first day. He said what? Jesus said, remember my death. Pope said what? Remember my birthday. Because no one even knows what it is. The Lord said what? I'm going to give you the dietary law. The Pope said you can pray over anything and it's okay, as long as you eat it. So we see he's changing times and he's changing laws. The Pope is doing all this and he have done all of this. And you can look it up. You can look it up. They will tell you that they did this. They're not ashamed to say it. So if you follow Christmas, if the Sunday is your Sabbath day, then you are a Catholic. You're not what they call it, whatever, Baptist, Seventh-day Adventist, or whatever case it is. If you follow anything that Papa say, that's who you belong to. Keep going.
And they shall be given into his hand until a time.
A time, that's 1 year.
And times.
Times is 2, so 1 plus 2 is 3.
And dividing of time.
And the dividing of times is half of that. So 3.5 years will he reign. And we know that this is 3.5 years because other scriptures that talks about this same situation gives you the actual months and the actual days. But that's who this horn is in the little horns. But we see that it's coming out the fourth kingdom. So we see that we are reigning on the abomination of desolation. That's who we waiting on. Because we are in the fourth kingdom right now. But yet we are not in this specific time, as if he did not lift himself out of obscurity. You know, he's still kind of hiding and doing things behind the shadow, though we know who he is. But it's coming to a forefront soon. Now we have that understanding. Let's go to Daniel 5. Now we're going to go to Daniel 5. Yeah, go ahead. My fact. Go ahead, read 26 and 27. I think I have that in here anyway. Go ahead, read it. Daniel 7, verse 26. I'm sorry. Daniel 7, 26. Go ahead.
But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it unto the end.
So at the end it's going to be destroyed. Keep going.
And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High.
So after the fourth kingdom, Jesus Christ will be ruling. The saints will be ruling. Go ahead.
Whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom.
And this kingdom will not end. It is an everlasting kingdom. Go ahead.
And all dominions shall serve and obey him.
And all the dominions shall serve and obey him. So all the people in the land shall serve and obey him. Now let's go to Daniel 5. Daniel 5 in verse 1, huh? Oh, I'm going to go to Daniel 8. Daniel 8, thank you, brother. Daniel 8 and verse 1. Yeah, perfect. I needed to go through this. So we see that this horn came out of the fourth kingdom that was dreadful and terrible. Now we're going to read something else in Daniel 8, and we have to pay attention on which kingdom we're talking about. Because the fourth kingdom came abomination and desolation. But it's going to be a man that's coming out of the third kingdom that is just as terrible. Just as terrible. Daniel 8 and verse 1.
In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar.
So we still in Babylonian Empire. So all these dreams and all these things is coming in the first kingdom's rule. So none of this stuff had even happened yet. That tells you that our God is the real God. In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel. Go ahead.
And after that, which appeared unto me at the first.
So this is a different vision that he had. Go ahead.
And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai.
And I'm pretty, I don't really have patience. So we're going to skip down to verse 20, and we're going to read this, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to finish it off. Because I want y'all to know what we're reading about and who we're reading about before we read it. So verse 20, go ahead.
The ram which thou sawest, having two horns, are the kings of Media and Persia.
So this vision that he has is going to talk about a ram who is the Medes and the Persians. One horn will be higher than the other because one kingdom is going to be stronger than the other, but these kingdoms rule as one. And 21, Go ahead.
And the rough goat is the king of Grecia.
And then the rough goat is the king of Grecia, which is Greece. Go ahead.
And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
Which is Alexander the Great. So that's who we're talking about, right? Persians and Alexander the Great. We know already that after Nebuchadnezzar, Persia is going to rule. Okay? And if we're going to learn by Daniel 8 that after Persia, Alexander the Great is going to rule. But this chapter tells you and go into details about the Greek empire that a lot of people don't take to heart. That's what we're going to read. Now pick up to verse 3. Go ahead.
Then I lift up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram.
So who's that ram? Medes or Persians. Go ahead.
Which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last.
Because Medes and Persians started off, Cyrus was the king of the Medes specifically, even though Medes and Persians ran together. But eventually, the Persians became stronger than the Medes. That's why they were behind the first horn. But they still as one kingdom, which is the ram. Go ahead.
Verse 4. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great.
So the Medes and Persians ruled the world at one point, and no one could do anything about it until they made somebody mad. Verse 5.
And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth.
And who's this he-goat? Greek. It's Greeks. Go ahead.
And touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
Which is Alexander the Great. Go ahead.
And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power.
So they start fighting. Verse 7.
And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him.
He was moved with anger against him. So he was angry at them, and it's a reason why. And I'm going to talk about that later on. Go ahead.
And smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him. And there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand.
Keep going.
Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken.
So when he was at the height of his power, the great horn was broken, meaning he died. Alexander the Great died, and what happened?
And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven.
Toward the 4 winds of heaven, or the 4 different geographical areas. And we already know what this is about and who this is about, because I told you guys. This is the Diadokis that they call them. It's the Greece Empire after Alexander the Great broke up. It was 4 kings that split up his empire. Go ahead.
9. And out of one of them
And out of one of who? Out of one of who?
Greek.
The Greeks.
Yeah.
So out of one of the Greeks came what?
a little horn.
Came a little horn. So we're not talking about the 4th power, are we? We're not talking about Rome. We're talking about Greece. And out of Greece came up a little horn. I'm going to let y'all know, because, like I said, I only got patience. This is Antiochus Epiphanes. Hands down. Because he did everything that the Pope did already. And it's talking about him here. It's clear that out of the 3rd beast came up a little horn. That did what?
Which waxed exceeding great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land.
And the south is Ptolemy Empire, which is Egypt. Alright? And towards the east, because he was beefing with Rome, like everybody else was. And towards the pleasant land, he had specific hatred for Jerusalem. Verse 11. Right? 10. Verse 10. Go ahead.
And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven.
And he waxed great even to the host of heaven. Sound a lot like the Pope. Nothing is new underneath the sun. Everything that happened before. Go ahead.
And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host.
And he absolutely did that. And I'm going to tell you how he did that once we get to it. But he magnified himself to the prince of hosts, and what else?
And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away.
Absolutely right. He stopped the daily sacrifice as well. The Bible talks about it in Daniel 11. Matter of fact, hey, I ain't got patience, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Hey, he made it where he set up a fortress right next to the temple. And anybody that came to worship, he killed them. Right then and there. Made it where that the daily sacrifice had to stop. Nobody came up to the sanctuary for years because he set up shop there. Not only did he set up the shop there, he sacrificed pigs on the temple. He brought in Zeus in the kingdom. He did all that stuff. Out of the third empire, not out of the fourth empire. Now, is the fourth empire going to do it? Absolutely, because the Bible said he would. The Bible told you that, hey, we read already that the Lord speaks on things before it even happened. He speaks on them. And we see before Alexander the Great in Greece is in power, this is happening. Yeah, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Verse 12.
And the host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both...
And it called the man transgressing of desolation, the abomination of desolation. It's called him that too. We're still in the Greek Empire though. And Daniel was asking, how long will the sacrifice be halted for during this time? And what did he say?
To give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
And they said that it started off December 16th, 167 BC, and it ended in 163 BC. So that whole time was 2,300 days that they were not sacrificing anything. And like I said, y'all don't believe me, that's fine. You know, you can look it up in history, Google it. Everybody got a phone. It is absolutely Googleable. That's my word that I made up. So if you ever say that again, you better say like my man Rashad said, Googleable. It is absolutely Googleable. Verse 15.
And it came to pass, when I, even I Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision.
So we see the Holy Spirit, Gabriel, being sent to Daniel to tell him what must shortly come to pass. Go ahead.
17. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision.
So at the time of the end shall be the vision. So we still talk about end times, because it's all part of end time prophecy. All of this is. Go ahead.
18. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground. But he touched me and set me upright. And he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation.
I'm going to let you know what happens at the end. What is it? Go ahead.
For at the time appointed the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia.
So just in case you missed out before, it's the kings of Media and Persia was the goat. Go ahead.
And the
ram. The ram was the king of Media and Persia, and the rough goat was what? Go ahead.
And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, the four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power.
Verse 23.
And in the latter time.
And now we talk about the latter times of their kingdom. So now we talk about a different time, but nevertheless, see, that's why I opened the Bible up. I opened the scripture up with Isaiah 49, and I also went to Job 33 to let you know that he talks in double meaning. Because what we about to read here absolutely happened in Antiochus Epiphanes time. I have history for it, and I'm going to talk to you through it. But we also know that the Pope is going to do the exact same thing. Things is already setting up for him to do it. We can read Matthew 24. We will assume that the Lord told you that he's going to do it. That the Pope is going to do things like this. But nevertheless, we still talking about the Greek Empire. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressor come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. Absolutely the Pope. Verse 24.
And in his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power.
Because we know Satan's going to be behind it all. Go ahead.
And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper in practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people.
The Pope will do that. We know Antiochus did that. Go ahead.
And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand.
And absolutely, the Pope will do that. He already did that. And Antiochus did it as well. The whole reason why Antiochus became a king because of craftiness. He wasn't even supposed to be a king, but he snuck through there and killed everybody else that would have took his kingship. And through his power, and not only that, his deal with Egypt, and that whole thing that happened there was extremely craft. And through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. He shall magnify himself in his heart. Go ahead.
And by peace shall destroy many.
That's what he did, and that's what the Pope is doing now, and will continue to do. Go ahead.
He shall also stand up against the Prince of Princes.
Because both of them stand up against Jesus Christ. I mean, Antiochus Epiphanes made it where you can't sacrifice anything, and he made it where he was the God. He sat there and said, I am God now. Y'all serve me. If you're not serving me, we come to this temple, I'm going to kill you. And we know the Pope will do it as well, because the Pope want to stand in the holy temple saying he is God. We can read that in the Bible. In the future, that's going to happen. So there's double standards in everything that the Lord is saying. But we know specifically in Daniel 8, he's talking about the Greek Empire. That's what he's talking about. It had not once yet went to the fourth kingdom. We still in the third kingdom. Go ahead.
But he shall be broken without hand.
And how shall he be broken without hand? He died in the midst of riding somewhere. Nobody knows how he died. He just died. There was no war. He didn't get killed. He just died. Antiochus was broken without hand. The Lord did that. Just killed him for no reason. Not for no reason, but you guys get what I'm saying. And the Pope, without hand, the Lord's going to kill the Pope easily. By the word of his mouth. Verse 26.
And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision? For it shall be for many days. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days. Afterward I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it.
He still didn't really understand it all, but we have to understand it because we have history and Bible with us. It's all said the same thing. Now let's go to Daniel's fall. And all this happened in Babylon's kingdom. It's not even in Medo-Persia kingdom yet, and the Lord is already telling you what's going on in the Greece time, and Roman time, and Babylonian time. Daniel 5 and verse 1. Go ahead.
Belshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, and drank wine before the 1,000.
So this is his grandson, Belshazzar, Nebuchadnezzar's grandson. Or I believe it's his grandson. Some people say it's his son, but I believe it's his grandson. Go ahead, verse 2.
Belshazzar, whilst he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem.
So he over here feeling pretty good, like Elijah said. He get his high on before his high stop. But he over here doing his thing, and he asked for all the temples and stuff, all the golds and stuff that's dedicated to the Lord, he wanted to bring out so he can sacrifice it to his God and partake in his involvements, whatever it is that he's doing. Drinking and partying, and there's some other things going on too. Go ahead.
That the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines might drink therein. Then they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of God, which was at Jerusalem, And the king and his princes, his wives, and his concubines drank in them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, of brass, of iron, of wood, and of stone.
Verse 5.
In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand and wrote over against the candlestick.
So the same hour, you see just some type of man hand coming in and writing things. Like, man, that would have freaked me out too. I had to double take. I go wash my face and come back and look at it like. In the same hour came forth the finger of a man's hand and wrote over against the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. Go ahead.
And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So that the joints of his loins were loose, and his knees smote one against another.
So he started flipping out. So once you start flipping out, he started asking people, hey, can you tell me what this thing is saying? It wrote out some type of word. He couldn't pronounce it. So he said the same thing that his grandfather did. Somebody better tell me what this means, or I'm killing people. So what did they do? They went to go get Israel, the captives, to tell them what thus said the Lord. The same thing that's happening now. You want to know what the Lord is saying? Come to the captives. Daniel 5 and verse 25. Go ahead.
And this is the writings that was written, meaning, tekel, upharsin. This is the interpretation of the thing, meaning, God hath numbered thy kingdom.
Your kingdom is done. Go ahead.
Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting.
You owing some stuff now, bro. You are sinning, and you're found wanting. You owe me something. Go ahead.
Perez, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians.
We knew already the Medes and the Persians was going to take over because what it said in Chronicles and what we read in Daniel 8. So he knew that the Medes and Persians was going to take over eventually, and this is how they came about. It was divided, given to the Medes and the Persians. Once again, these are two different nations, but they are running as one. 29.
Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet, and put a chain of gold about his neck.
Which means nothing, because that same day, he was taken over. But go ahead, keep going.
And made a proclamation concerning him, that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain, and Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
62 years old. So that's how that came about. That's how the rise of the Medo-Persians came about, and that's how the fall of Babylon came about. Now we're going to go to Ezra 1. Now we're going to Ezra 1. Because the Lord prophesied and said this was going to happen, and Cyrus was going to build his temple. King Cyrus from the Medes and the Persians. He said that in Isaiah, I believe. There's a lot of stuff I wanted to put up in here, but because of me having to explain them, it's going to be long, so I don't want to make more than what we have to be. So we go to Ezra 1, and we're picking up at verse 1. But just know it was prophesied that Cyrus could build the temple. Ezra 1 and verse 1. Go ahead.
Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying.
So 70 years was over, and now Cyrus is up, and he put it in writing. Cyrus put this in writing that Jews can go and build their temple. Go ahead.
2. Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? His God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem.
He is the God that is in Jerusalem. So because of Cyrus, the second temple was standing. The temple that's over there right now, or was over there before it was torn down by the Romans, came because of Cyrus. Go ahead.
4. And whosoever remaineth remaineth in any place where he sojourneth, let the men of his place help him with silver, and with gold, and with goods, and with beasts, beside the free will offering for the house of God that is in Jerusalem. Then rose up the chief of the fathers of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests and the Levites, with all them whose spirit God had raised, to go up to build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem.
Skip down to verse 7. Well, matter of fact, let's read through 7. Go ahead.
And all they that were about them strengthened their hands with vessels of silver, with gold, with goods, and with beasts, and with precious things, beside all that was willingly offered. Also Cyrus the king brought forth the vessels of the house of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had brought forth out of Jerusalem, and had put them in the house of his gods.
So now we're going to skip. Now we see that everything that Babylon had, Cyrus is putting it back into the temple. Now we go to Nehemiah 2. Nehemiah 2 and verse 1. So that took some time to be built. But after that was built, the 70-year prophecy still didn't matter until the wall was built. So now we're going to look at the wall. And all this had to do with the rise and fall of the kingdoms of Babylon. So now we're going to look at the wall. So Ezra built the temple. Nehemiah built the wall. Nehemiah 2 and verse 1. Go ahead.
And it came to pass in the month Nisan, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes the king.
So now we are in a different kingdom, or a different king, but yet it is still Medes and Persians, and Artaxerxes is the one that's running things. And he is a big reason why Greek became as powerful as they did, because of him. Go ahead.
That wine was before him, and I took up the wine, and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sad in his presence. Wherefore the king said unto me, Why is thy countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Then I was very sore afraid, and said unto the king, Let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad, when the city, the palace, the place of my father's sepulchres lieth waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? Then the king said unto me, For what dost thou make request? So I prayed to the God of heaven. And I said unto the king, If it please the king, and if thy servant have found favor in thy sight, that thou wouldest send me unto Judah, unto the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. And the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, For how long shall thy journey be? And when wilt thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time.
So we read that to understand that after the rise of after the rise of Medes and Persians, in their empire, Israel was able to go back to the land of Jerusalem and built their temple and built their land. That's why they had a land to go to when Alexander the Great in Rome was in power. Because of what Cyrus did. They were still in captivity. They were still under the bondage of Cyrus and whoever was the king at that point. But they were back in their homeland. Now let's go to Daniel 9. Now we're going back to Daniel, and we're going to look at this. Now we're not going to get into the 70 weeks, because that's a whole different lesson. That's going to take another 2 hours. But I do just want to mention it, because it has everything to do with the rise and fall of the kingdoms of Babylon. Daniel 9 and verse 1. Daniel 9 and verse 1. Go ahead.
In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans.
So he was made king of the realm of the Chaldeans. But once, like I said, this is still Medes and Persia's empire. Go ahead.
In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of the years, whereof the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem.
So 70 years went past. They are now in Medo-Persia Empire. The temple is built. The wall is put up. And Daniel's still in captivity. Like, I don't understand. I thought we were going to go back home and God going to be here. We're going to be running things again. So that's why he's going through Jeremiah. Like, it says 70 years, and it's past 70 years. I'm trying to understand what is going on. Go ahead.
3. And I set my face unto the Lord God to seek by prayer and supplications.
And so he didn't understand what was going on in the Bible, so what he did, he went to go pray and fast for it and get some understanding on the matter. Go ahead.
With fasting and sackcloth and ashes. And I prayed unto the Lord my God, and made my confession, and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him, and to them that keep his commandments.
Which is still the same to this day. You don't keep his commandments, you don't love him. Verse 5.
We have sinned, and have committed iniquity, and have done wickedly, and have rebelled, even by departing from thy precepts and from thy judgments.
So, this lets you know Israel has sinned, and the curses was poured out upon them. And they were scattered in slavery until Jesus Christ comes. So those individuals right now that's in the land of Israel is not the real Jews. Because if they was, they'd still be in captivity. Not in their own land. Go ahead.
6. Neither have we hearkened unto thy servants, the prophets, which spake in thy name to our kings and our princes and our fathers, and to all the people of the land.
Now skip down to verse 20. So he made this big old prayer. He was sobbing. He was trying to get understanding, like, Lord, what is going on? And then Gabriel, once again, the Holy Spirit came and gave him some understanding of the matter. Daniel 9 and verse 20. Go ahead.
And whilst I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God for the holy mountain of my God, yea, whilst I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation.
Keep going.
And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill and understanding.
I came forth to give you skill and understanding, not to have you dance and jump and scream and yell. I came forth so you can get some understanding. Go ahead.
23. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore understand the matter and consider the vision. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people.
So this is not 70 weeks as literal weeks, but 70 weeks of years. Or like we can read in Matthew, 70 times 7. Or we can also read it in Genesis as well. So these 70 weeks is literally 70 times 7. So 490 years all this stuff's going to take place. Go ahead.
70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression, and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy.
So all that's going to take 490 years. All of that. So that's a lot. So Daniel was thinking about literally 70 years, like, bro, we done while we still in captivity. And Gabriel came and was like, nah, you got some time. Right now you're in Babylonian Empire. You got to wait for Greek. Then you got to wait for Rome. And then he's going to come back and finish everything. Go ahead.
25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem.
And we read that in Nehemiah. Go ahead.
Unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks.
It'll be 49 years for that. And then what?
And 62 weeks.
Then 62 weeks later, what happened?
The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times.
Keep going.
And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself.
So in the midst of it, the Messiah will be cut off, but not to himself. Keep going.
And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with the flood, and unto the end.
So who's the people of the prince? That's Satan and the Pope and his gang. Shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Antiochus Epiphanes never destroyed it. So we know we talk about a different individual. So this is the fourth beast. He eventually destroyed it, the second temple, and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with the flood. Go ahead.
And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease.
So in the midst of the 49th week, he would die, causing the sacrifice and basing the cease, he being Jesus. Go ahead.
And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate.
So I only came here, and I'm not trying to get into it in too much detail because, like I said, this is an extra 2 hours on top of this lesson. I'm just letting you know that in the midst of the Medo-Persian Empire, Daniel got word that you have some time until all this stuff is finished. It's not 70 literal years. It's 490 years altogether, 70 times 7. And all this stuff has to happen. Now, we saw that the temple was built and the wall was built. Now you got to wait for the Messiah to come, Messiah to be cut off, and all that stuff don't happen to Rome time. And in that time, you will see the fourth beast, the abomination of desolation, will come and destroy everything again, and there will be a big old war. So we see that we have two, in a sense, abomination of desolations. One happened in Greek, that the Bible in Daniel 7 literally called them the destination, transgression or whatever. Thank you for saying it. He literally called them that. And then we also know that the Lord called him that in Matthew 24, a different individual. So I know it might be hard for a lot of people. Man, you're telling me that there's two abominations and desolations? It can't be. I'm not telling you it. I'm just reading it. You got to let me know how can you get the fourth kingdom out of the third empire. Greek is still running it. So how can you tell me that's the Pope? You can't. There has to be somebody else. Okay, well, what's up with Matthew 24? Exactly. That's a different individual. So you have two then. No, bro, I can't. Okay, well, don't call him abomination. Call him something else. Call him man of sin. You want to call him that? Call him ugly dude. I don't care. But understand that there's two individuals that did conquer and destroy the temple. One destroyed it literally, and also, once it get rebuilt, destroyed it with the false worship and all that stuff, stopping at the daily sacrifice. And the other one just destroyed it by stopping the daily sacrifice and killing everybody that came around. Let's go to Daniel 11 now. Daniel 11. Now this is right here is a big chapter, and after this, things should be moving a little bit more smoother. This right here is one of the most confusing chapters in the Bible, me talking to individuals and their perception of it. This right here is dealing with the Diadochis. Specifically, the Diadochis are the four kingdoms that split up after Alexander the Great died. Specifically, it's talking about the 6 Syrian wars. There's been 6 wars in Syria, which had to do with Ptolemy, Egypt, and Seleucid Empire, the north, which controlled Babylon and all that stuff. Those individuals continue fighting 6 times, which was a big deal. And the reason why it was such a big deal, because every war, the control of Jerusalem changed. One moment, Egypt had control of Jerusalem. The next moment, Seleucid Empire controlled Jerusalem. So that's why we know that it's talking about that specific time, because we know that the Lord only cares about Israel. He don't care about no other nation like that. So he's going to tell you everything that's happening with Israel. But without further ado, let's go ahead and read it, because this right here is going to be kind of long. Daniel 11 and verse 1. Daniel 11 and verse 1. Go ahead.
Also I, in the first year of Darius.
So now we in Medo-Persian Empire, and he having a vision about what's going to happen in the future. Go ahead.
Even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia.
So there's going to be 3 kings in Persia, and what else?
And the 4th shall be far richer than they all.
And the 4th shall be far richer than them all. And this is Xerxes. Okay, go ahead.
And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece.
And how did he do that? I know a lot of us saw that 300 movie, right? That's what happened. That was Xerxes. And he was trying to control everything. And he was like, I want to control Greece. And you had only a small number of the Greek Empire fighting off Persia. They ended up losing that battle. But eventually Persia never controlled Greece. And Greece never forgot about that. They was angry about that since day one. And that was the reason why Alexander the Great came up so furious to fight Medes and the Persians and ended up taking them over. So that's what we're reading about right now. Verse 3.
And the mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will.
And that's Alexander the Great. Verse 4.
And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven.
So he died at age 32, but he conquered Persia at 334 BC. So that's when he ended up dying, a little bit after that. And then once that happened, his kingdom was split up in 4 places. You had Ptolemy Empire, Seleucid Empire. You had 2 others that really don't make me never mind, because it has nothing to do with the Bible. But go ahead.
And not to his posterity.
So it didn't go to his kids. It went to his generals. Posterity is his children. So it got broken up, but not to his children, nor according to his dominion, which is rule. Go ahead.
For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those.
So 4 others beside those. Verse 5.
And the king of the south shall be strong.
So it started off talking about the king of the south. What is he talking about? He's talking about the Egyptian empire, which is ran by Ptolemy. Ptolemy was one of his strongest generals, and he was lucky and blessed to get the Egyptian empire. And he was known as the king of the south. This is the first Ptolemy, and he was pretty strong. He was Alexander the Great's best friend. So a lot of his war tactics, Alexander the Great war tactics, came from Ptolemy. They ran hand to hand. That was his crimey, as they say. Go ahead.
And one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion.
It says, and the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, meaning his son, and he shall be strong above him. So his son was stronger than his father. We talk about the dominion or the land that he controlled. Go ahead.
6. And in the end of the years, they shall...
yeah. Also, I want to mention the dividing of the 4 winds. The dividing of the Greece Empire. They call that the divide or the partition of Babylon. I think that's a big deal to understand, because even though Greece was still running it, they understood that this was Babylon Empire. So they called that division the partition of Babylon. And Ptolemy had a south. Now, we're going to start talking about the First World War already. Or not the World War, the First Syrian War. Because what ended up happening that Seleucid wanted more kingdoms, more power, so they end up fighting. Verse 6.
And in the end of years they shall join themselves together, for the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement.
And so what happened with that was that usually when you in the war, once you finish the war, you give somebody your daughter, and that's how they sign off as far as, okay, this war is over, and they make an agreement for that. So the first Syrian war was with Philadelphus and Antiochus Suitor, Philadelphus of Ptolemy and Antiochus Suitor. And then after he was defeated, they ended up coming together and made an agreement. An agreement had to do with Antiochus marrying Philadelphus' daughter. Now try to hold on to me while I go through this timeline, because it might be kind of dry, but for those who've been trying to read it and asking me to do the lesson, this right here will help change all of that. You'll understand after this. It says, at the end of years, they shall join themselves together, for the king's daughter of the south, which is Ptolemy, shall come to the king of the north, which is Seleucid, or they call him Antiochus Soter. But he shall not retain the power. Go ahead.
But he shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begat her, and he that strengthened her in these times.
So what does that talk about? Well, okay, so after they made an agreement, and he gave him his daughter to marry, he ended up divorcing his wife. Antiochus Suitor divorced his wife, and married Berenice, which was the daughter of Ptolemy. And then after Philadelphus died, he divorced or got rid of Bernice, even though she had a kid, got rid of her and went back to his first wife. That's why it says, but she shall not retain the power of Orm. They did not retain the agreement because he divorced her. Neither shall he stand because he ended up dying, nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begot her, and he that strengthened her in these times. So that marriage agreement was all thrown out after he died, because he got rid of his wife and married another one. Okay? Verse 7.
But out of a branch of her roots.
But out of the branch of her roots, talking about Ptolemy Empire, after that branch, which is her brother, what happened?
Shall one stand up in his estate.
Right? So his brothers, her brothers started ruling the empire. Go ahead.
Which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king
So
of the
he was
north.
pretty angry that that happened. So he came forth with his army to fight Antiochus. But once he got there, Antiochus was already dead because the wife, the first wife, ended up killing him. But nevertheless, he still went up there to fight war because the agreement was not stood. But out of the branch of her roots, and this dude name was Theos. That was his name. But out of the branch of her roots, one shall stand in his state, which shall come with the army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail. Verse 8.
And shall also carry captives into Egypt their gods, with their princes, and with their precious vessels of silver and of gold, and he shall continue more years than the king of the north.
So he took back a lot of gold and treasure and silver. It was said that for peace, Seleucid awarded territory and paid him 1,500 talents. And he also took back gold, art, and all that stuff back to Egypt. So that's what that was talking about in verse 8. Go ahead.
9. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom, and shall return into his own land.
So he went back to his own land, which is Egypt. Go ahead.
But his sons shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of
Just
great
like that,
forces.
this is the fourth Syrian war. The first one happened in 6, and then the second one happened. The first one happened before 6, and then because of the disagreement that did not happen with the marriage, Bernice fell apart. The second one happened. Then the third one happened. Now we're dealing with the fourth one. Go ahead.
And one shall certainly come, and overflow, and pass through. Then shall he return, and be stirred up, even to his fortress. And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north.
So that's what we are talking about. This whole Daniel 11 is talking about the beef between the south and the north because they control Jerusalem. But what I want to get to is skip down to verse, I don't want to go through all of it because really no need to. Skip down to verse 18. Skip down to verse 18. And we're going to read about this individual. Verse 18. Go ahead.
And this shall he turn his face
Verse
unto
18. After this, right? After this shall he turn his face into the isles. My bad. Go ahead.
After this shall he turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many, but a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease.
Keep going. Verse 19.
Without his own reproach he shall cause it to turn upon him. Then he shall turn his face toward the fort of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found.
So pretty much history tells us during this time, just because we read it, that he tried to take over Ptolemy. The north tried to take over Ptolemy. Didn't work. So he ended up going to Asia, captured many islands in Asia and Mediterranean. But then Rome got too powerful, so he had to come back and focus on what was going on in Rome. Right? And this individual here, what we're reading about, was ended up killed and cut up and was lost. Go ahead, keep going, but I'm trying to get to the point that I'm skipping a lot because I'm trying to get to this little horn in the Greek Empire. Go ahead, verse 20.
Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes.
Okay, so where he at? Rome is in power. After the war, Rome had a lot of debt on the north, Seleucid Empire, so he raised taxes. So in order to do this or pay the taxes, the king of the north at this time tried to take the gold from Israel. all of our gold that Cyrus brought it back to the temple, they try to take it and pay Rome with it. Then shall stand up the estate of the raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom, but within a few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle, because he was assassinated. Verse 21.
And in his estate shall stand up a vile person.
Now we get into it. In his estate shall stand a vile person. So we still talk about the Greek Empire. A vile person shall stand. Go ahead.
To whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom.
Because the kingdom was not given to him. But what?
But he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flattery.
Right. So Antiochus Epiphanes got led out of prison because his brother died. And he was co-king with his little brother, but then he ended up killing his little brother and became all the king of Greece, all the king of the Seleucid Empire. That's how he ended up obtaining the kingdom by flatteries. Verse 22.
And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant.
All right, also the prince of the covenant, which is his little brother. Go ahead.
And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully. For he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. He shall enter peaceably even upon the fattest places of the province. And he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches. Yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time.
Now skip down to verse 31. Skip down to verse 31. I'm not going to get into all of it, like I said. But this is verse 31. And this is still talking about the Greek Empire. Or Antiochus Epiphanes. Go ahead.
An arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. And shall take away the daily sacrifice.
So he coming in. If you continue reading on your own time or during question and answer, he had a little beef, and because of that, he got angry and took it out on Israel, and he stopped the daily sacrifice. Like I told you, he did that by setting up a little sanctuary right by the temple, and anybody that came in, he will kill them. Go ahead.
And they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. And such as...
So this is still the Greek Empire, and they said he will take place the abomination that maketh desolate. So he calling this man the abomination of desolation. Go ahead.
32. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits.
So this, you can learn more about this in the Maccabees. Like I said, I don't really deal with the Apocrypha too much because a lot of things are, in my opinion, not all the way there. But nevertheless, the Maccabees talks about this time. But you also can read it here in Daniel 11. But we see that the people of that time that still believed in God started to fight back or tried to. Verse 33.
And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days.
Keep going.
Now when they shall fall, they shall be holpen with a little help. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them and to purge and to make them white even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time of
So as you read in Daniel 11 and you follow along to the story about the king of the south and the king of the north, starting from verse 17 all the way down, it stayed talking about the king of the north. It didn't really talk about the king of the south too much, because the king of the north was that little horn that it was talking about in Greek that will come and take over the whole land and stop the daily sacrifice and do all these things to Israel. Verse 36.
And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god.
Because he made himself God. Go ahead.
And shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done.
Keep going.
Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things.
So absolutely we can see it's still talking about the king of the north, but we know of the Pope because of other scriptures, and we can see how this lined up to him as well. That's why I said, hey, the Bible has a lot of double meanings in it. But we know in Daniel 11 and Daniel 8, it's specifically talking about the Greek Empire. Now, if you want to make it fit Rome, you absolutely can do that, because we can have other scriptures letting you know that it fits Rome. Because God is not going to do something different. Just like how Antiochus Epiphanes took over Jerusalem, the Pope is going to do the same way. But the Pope is going to do it on a world scale. Antiochus only did it in that little area, which is the Syrian area. Go ahead.
39. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain.
Verse 40.
And at that time of the end shall the king of the south push at him.
So at this time, Ptolemy got mad, start pushing back, and what else?
And the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind.
That happened as well, because Rome started taking up over everything. So they was known as the king of the north at that time. So they came upon him as well. Go ahead.
With chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon.
Keep going.
He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. And the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps.
So we see now that the characteristics of Antiochus Epiphanes absolutely match the same characteristics of Rome. Because Rome would do, or Pope would do the same thing that Antiochus Epiphanes did. The exact same thing. And we see that here going down. Now, and I wanted to get into it more during question and answer, but for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and keep it moving. Now we're going to go to Matthew 24. We're going to go to Matthew 24. The Bible don't really talks about the rise of Rome and the fall of Greek into detail, but we know once Jesus Christ stepped on scene, Rome was in power. They was in power, and now Jesus is talking about the Roman Empire or the fall of it. And we're going to see how everything matched up, and it's still a part of the rise and fall of the Babylonian kingdom. Matthew 24 and verse 1. Go ahead.
And Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down.
So this is the second temple. This is the same temple that Antiochus Epiphanes disrespected completely. The same temple that Cyrus told them to build. Herod kind of prettied it up a little bit, but it's the same temple. So we know that that temple's still been around until this time. Go ahead.
3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?
Go ahead.
And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you.
So off top, the first thing that he said was take heed that no man deceive you. Because that is the biggest thing. People out here, you have false Christs running around deceiving many. Deceiving many. Skip down to verse 15. Go ahead.
When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand.
So we already read in Daniel 11 that he called one individual the abomination of desolation, but he already passed. But now we read in Matthew 24, the Lord is letting you know that there's another abomination of desolation that's supposed to be coming forth in the future. And whosoever readeth, let him understand. This is the office of the Pope. This is the Pope. This is that individual that's in the fourth empire, that little horn. He is letting you know about. Not the Greek empire, but the Pope, the fourth empire. Verse 16.
Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountain. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days.
So we in the future, and we still talking about, read verse 20.
But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath
So we
day.
in the future, and we still talking about the Sabbath day. So we know that Sabbath day is still up in it and important. Go ahead.
21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be.
So this time going to be far worse than what we were dealing with Antiochus. So we know we're talking about a whole different time period with a whole different kingdom. But Daniel already told you specifically in what kingdom this individual will be in and who this individual is. Go ahead.
22. And except those days should be shortened, and there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs, and also false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect.
Now we're going to skip to, we'll go to Revelation now. We'll go to Revelation 17. So we see that the Lord is telling you, after the Greek Empire, in the midst of Rome Empire, to be aware of this individual that's going to come and stop the daily sacrifice again. And he called them the abomination of desolation. So we're going to take a look at this individual, because like we read in the beginning of the lesson, that, hey, the Lord will tell everything from the beginning to end. So we already know how the ending is going to be, because the scriptures tell us so. We already knew that Antiochus was going to come. We already knew that Babylon or Medo-Persia and Greek was going to come, because the Lord told us. And this carries on. Revelation 17 and verse 1. 17 and 1. Go ahead.
And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
So the Lord is going to show you this beast. Go ahead.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast.
So you see a woman sit upon a beast full of names of blasphemies, and what?
And having 7 heads and 10 horns.
And he having 7 heads and 10 horns. This is the same characteristics that we read up in Daniel. 7 heads and 10 horns. Verse 4.
And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication.
Verse 5.
And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great.
And her name was Mystery Babylon the Great. This is, so we know we still talk about the Babylonian Empire. And this 4th beast specifically is known of, or known by, the Mystery Babylon the Great. Because nobody understands how she is still in power. It's a mystery how Rome is still in power. It's a mystery how the Gentile dynasty continued to stay throughout this long. It says, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great. Go ahead.
The mother of harlots.
The mother of harlots, because she's the mother church. Catholics will let you know that she's the mother church, and all her other churches are straight whores. Coming from her. Go ahead.
And abominations of the earth.
Verse 6.
And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints.
And she's drunken with the blood of the saints, kind of like how Antiochus was drunken with the blood of the saints. I saw a woman drunken with the blood of the saints. Go ahead.
And with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration.
Keep going.
And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath 7 heads and 10 horns.
So we're going to learn about the woman and the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. It's the same beast. It's that same empire. But people don't believe that it's still around because, verse 8.
The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit.
So people don't understand that it's still around because the beast was and is not. at one point the beast was the most powerful empire on this world, and then all of a sudden it's not. But then it said it shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition, because it always stayed around. It stayed around through religion. Rome is not around in military might like it was 2,000 years ago, but the Pope, every country that he goes into, they have to kiss his ring. He's still ruling it. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. Go ahead.
And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is.
So the beast was and is not and yet is. So it's still around, but it's not in its full power or glory as of yet, but it's still running things. Like, for an example, it's illegal to do a funeral on a Sunday. Why? Because the Pope told you that. So we see how he's still in power. Verse 10. No.
And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth.
And if you Google it, Google a nation that sits on 7 mountains, it will bring up Vatican City. The Vatican City is a city or a nation that started the Catholic Church. So it's letting you know, it's pointing you out to the exact location of who it is speaking about, the woman that it is speaking about. It says, and here that it has mind which hath wisdom, the 7 heads are the 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth on. Verse 10.
And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. So
you have 7 kings, 5 are fallen. Right? So it was 10 kings, but 3 was gone. And then from that point, 5 has fallen. So the point that we're reading that right now in Revelation 17, 5 has already fallen. And 1 is. So 1 was around at that time. Go ahead.
And the other is not yet come.
And it's still talking about a different one that has not came yet. It's still talking about a different one that has not came yet, because don't forget, in Daniel, it said that there was 10 horns. And all of them was not came into power yet. Now we're reading in Revelation, majority of them already came to power, and we're still waiting. And we're still waiting on this same horn. Go ahead.
And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7th, and goeth into perdition.
He's going to be the one that goes into perdition. Or destruction. That's another word for perdition. He's the one that's going to start destroying everything. Go ahead.
12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings.
We already know that because you read Daniel. Go ahead.
Which have received no kingdom as yet. But receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast.
So once the beast gets its full glory, they will also receive some glory as well. So they're going to rule with him. Verse 13.
These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them.
So they're going to really believe that they can fight the Lamb, or fight against Jesus Christ. Antiochus never went blow for blow with Jesus, but this individual will, and they believe that they can win. Go ahead.
For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful.
Keep going.
And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked.
And we see that the 10 horns, which are kings, which thou sawest upon the beast, shall hate the whore. So that's why it was mingled with clay and mingled with iron. Because they're not all the way together. They are running as one. They are representing one country. But they are not all on the same page. They all still envy one another. Go ahead.
And shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth.
And that woman is that city that reigned over the kingdom of the earth, which is Vatican City. That's who that woman is. And the beast is the Babylonian Empire that we read about that stayed throughout this whole time. And we're going to look at it right here. Let's go to Revelation 13. We're almost done. We're going to look at it right here. That empire stayed, and specifically Rome went into a little obscurity, and they thought they lost their power, but in the Vatican, they kept their power. So now when it comes back, you're going to have a false prophet, which is the Pope, and you're going to have the beast that runs with the Pope, just like it has always been in a Roman Empire. Revelation 13, and pick up at verse 1. 13 and 1, go ahead.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea.
So we know what that sea is. That sea is people and nations. Go ahead. And they saw a beast rise out of the sea. And we know by Daniel, the beast is usually a kingdom. Go ahead.
Having 7 heads and 10 horns.
And we know what those 7 heads is. Those are mountains where the horse sit upon. And we know the 10 horns are the kings. Go ahead.
And upon his horns 10 crowns. And upon his heads the names of blasphemy.
Keep going.
And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard.
And the beast that he saw that came out of it was as like a leopard. We know that the leopard is Alexander the Great. Go ahead.
And his feet were as the feet of a bear.
And the feet is Medo-Persia. Go ahead.
And his mouth as the mouth of a lion.
And that lion is Babylon with Nebuchadnezzar. So we see that now we see the beast all as one. The writer, John, seeing this beast all as one. But it's seeing them in its own category, should I say. But they're all ruling as one, as of right now. The whole Gentile dynasty. Go ahead.
And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death.
And one of his heads was wounded as to death because they thought Rome lost its power. Go ahead.
And his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered at the beast.
And everybody wondered at the beast. Verse 14.
4,
my bad.
And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
And the Lord's going to do this. Like I said, he never changed. Just like how he did with the Greek Empire to the Roman Empire. Who ended up taking over... Well, I'm going to say it like this. He used man to take over Rome. And the man he's going to use is be the Persians. He's going to use them to take over Rome again. Go ahead.
5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
3.5 years, like we read in Daniel. Go ahead.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven.
You're seeing the same characteristics as what happened in Daniel 11 and Daniel 8. Go ahead.
And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
And that's the difference between him and Antiochus, is that he's ruling everything. It says giving him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. Verse 8.
And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. If he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity.
Keep going.
He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
Verse 11.
And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth.
So this is another beast that's coming out the earth. Go ahead.
And he had 2 horns like a lamb. And he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast.
So we see that this beast, the second beast that's coming up, is causing everybody to worship the first beast with military power. That's what he's using. Go ahead.
Whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he hath power to do in the sight of the beast.
Go ahead.
Saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had been wounded by a sword, and did live.
So you should make an image to this beast of Rome. Go ahead.
15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
So if you, just like what happened in Antiochus' time, just like it happened in Nebuchadnezzar's time, if you don't worship what they set up, you're going to be killed. That's what they did with Daniel. Then he was like, hey, I'm going to set up this statue, you're going to worship it. If you don't, you're going to be killed. That same thing going to happen in our time. Go ahead.
16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead.
And we already seeing the blueprint of that right now taking form. You can't buy or sell or do anything without a mask. You can't even go to a grocery store. You can't go to a school. Pretty soon they're going to mandatory vaccinations and everything else. But if we seeing the blueprint of it all already taking place. But it says, he shall call both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or their foreheads, and what? Verse 17.
And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name.
Verse 18.
Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast.
So this is the beast. What is it?
For it is the number of a man.
The beast is the man. Go ahead.
And his number is 666.
Which is 666, which means vicariously you die. So we see that you have one beast, and you have another beast, which is a military power, and they're going to run hand in hand, like how it did in previous times in Rome. So this is how Rome is coming back into its full strength with the EU, but nevertheless, the Lord's going to tackle them down. Very easy. Jeremiah 51. And it says it right here. Jeremiah 51. And this is before Babylon came to its full strength, that Jeremiah is prophesying the end of the dynasty of Babylon. Jeremiah 51 and verse 1. And he tells you who he's going to use to cause the destruction of Babylon. 51 and 1. Go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will raise up against Babylon, and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me.
So he was saying, the people were saying, who's able to make war with the beast? This beast is strong and powerful. Well, the Lord letting you know he will. He will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that raise up against him. That's why we read a lot that it says, come out of her. Because if you don't come out of her, the Lord will have war with you as well. Go ahead.
A destroying wind, and will send unto Babylon fanners, that shall fan her, and shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigadine. And spare ye not her young men. Destroy ye utterly all her host. Thus,
so say against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow, against him that lifted himself up in his brigadine, which is his armory, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly in her host. So the Lord telling you to kill them all. Kill every single one of them. Go ahead, verse 4.
Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets.
And we know he's not talking about literal Babylon as the king of Nebuchadnezzar. It's talking about a different time after them. And we're going to see that. Go ahead.
5. For Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God, of the Lord of hosts. Though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance.
For this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. So Medo-Persian, when they took over Babylon, that wasn't known as the time of the Lord's vengeance. But this is. And we know this is not but at the end. He will render unto her a recompense. Verse 7.
Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand.
And what he talking about, that same golden cup he was talking about in Revelation. That's how we know it's talking about the end time. Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hands. Go ahead.
That made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore the nations are mad.
That's how we know we're talking about Rome as the face of the Babylonian Empire as of right now. That's what we read in Jeremiah 51. Verse 8.
Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her. Take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country.
And he said, forsake her, and let everyone go into their own country. We can read this as well in Isaiah 13. We will read it. That's another way we know this is the end time. Because once Jesus Christ come back in the year of Jubilee, everybody go back to their homeland. So we have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let her go into her, and let us go everyone into their own country. Go back to your own land. Go ahead.
For her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. The Lord hath brought forth our righteousness. Come, and let us declare in Zion the work of the Lord our God.
Keep going.
Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes.
Hath raised up who?
The spirit of the kings of the Medes.
These Medes and these Persians are the ones that are going to come back and fight against Babylon in the end times. We're going to see it in Revelation as well. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes. Go ahead.
For his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple.
Go ahead.
Set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon. Make the watch strong. Set up the watchmen.
Be strong. Be at your strongest point. Go ahead.
Prepare the ambushes. For the Lord hath both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babylon.
13.
Oh, that thou dwellest upon many waters.
Oh, that thou dwellest upon many waters. It's giving you a lot of parallels about what we read already in Revelation. That's how we know who we are picking. Which Babylon empire we are talking about, in which stage of it. All that thou dwellest upon many waters, go ahead.
Abundant in treasures, thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. The Lord...
Skip down to 24, verse 24, because it starts talking about how us, Israel, is going to be the battle axe, but that's at a different time. Skip down to verse 24, go ahead.
And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith the Lord. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord.
O destroying mountain, I am against you. Go ahead.
Which destroyeth all the earth. And I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain.
Keep going.
And they shall not take of thee a stone for a corner, nor a stone for foundations. But thou shalt be desolate forever, saith the Lord.
Once I get done with you, there's no way you're coming back. No way. Go ahead. 27.
Set ye up a standard in the land.
Yes, please.
Blow the trumpet among the nations.
It says, stand ye up a standard in the land. Blow the trumpet among the nations. So this is another indication that we talk about the end times. That 7 trumpets blow. Blow the trumpets among the nations. Go ahead.
Prepare the nations against her.
Prepare for war. Go ahead.
Call together against her the kingdoms of Ararat, Minni, and Ashkenaz. Appoint a captain against her. Cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars.
28.
Prepare against her the nations which the kings of the Medes.
So it said, prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. So we see, just like how Medo-Persia, how the Lord used Medo-Persia to take over Babylon in the beginning of the Babylonian Empire, we see at the end of Babylonian Empire where Rome is running, that he's going to use the Medes and the Persians again to take them over, to beat them off. And that's how the Lord is going to establish his kingdom. Now we're going to go to Isaiah 13. And we're going to see it again here. Isaiah 13. The Lord do the same thing as he did before. Like I said in Ecclesiastes, nothing is new underneath the sun. So how Antiochus Epiphanes did it, that's how the Pope's going to do it. But the Pope's going to do it on a more world scale. And how Medo-Persians took over Babylon, that's how Medo-Persians going to take over Babylon again, but as Rome is ruling. Isaiah 13 and verse 1. 13 and 1. Go ahead.
The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see.
So the oracle of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. So once again, Isaiah is seeing the end of Babylon before it fully came into fruition. Go ahead.
Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain. Exalt the voice unto them. Shake the hand, that they might go into the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called.
So the Lord called these individuals his sanctified ones. That's what he called them, the Medes and the Persians. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have called my mighty ones for my anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. Go ahead. Verse 4.
The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people. A tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle.
Go ahead.
They come from a far country.
These individuals come from a far country. Go ahead.
From the end of heaven. Even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land.
Verse 6.
Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand.
So we know we're talking about the day of the Lord. That's what all this stuff is talking about, is the day of the Lord. Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand. Go ahead.
It shall come as destruction from the Almighty.
Skip down to verse 13.
Therefore,
verse 12. My bad, verse 12. Go ahead.
I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Therefore, I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place. In the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger.
Verse 14.
And it shall be as the chased roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people.
Once again, we see every man returning to his own people and his own land, like you read in Jeremiah. Now skip down to verse 17. And let's see who he's going to use for this. Go ahead.
Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them.
So he's going to stir up the Medes and the Persians against them again. This is our second time reading it. Go ahead.
Which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it.
Now let's go to Revelation 9. Revelation 9. And we're going to see it. We're going to see it take place. The Lord said he called it in from the beginning. So we can see it, and we can actually see it take place rather than guessing. This is not a guessing game. That's how I know that, hey, Antiochus did what he did. Because how you going to have an individual coming out in the Greek Empire, destroying everything, but you're going to try to tell me that didn't happen? No, that happened. You just don't believe it. He's just a predecessor of the Antichrist. Revelation 9 and verse 1. Revelation 9 and verse 1. Go ahead.
And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit. And there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by the reason of the smoke of the pit.
Verse 3.
And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth. And unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power.
So this is some type of military tactic or army. Verse 4.
And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads.
And let's see who is this army. Let's get down to verse 13. Go ahead.
And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before God, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men.
So they will slay the third part of men. This is God's army. Will slay a third part of men. Verse 16.
And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000.
2 million. Go ahead.
And I heard the number of them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth, and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. But these three was the third part of men killed by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouth.
Verse 19.
For their power is in their mouth, and in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues yet repented not of the works of their hands. So
just like how we read with the captivity of Jerusalem, that the Lord sent Nebuchadnezzar plenty of times down there to take the kings and take some gold, but we still didn't repent. We refused to repent. The Lord beating on Babylon right here, beating on the world, but yet we still refuse to repent. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands. Go ahead.
That they should not worship the devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk.
21.
Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their theft. So
we seeing the Lord is starting to come in, and his empire is starting to take forth, kind of like we read in Daniel 2 with that stone hitting the 10 toes, and then that rock became strong. Well, now we're seeing that take place. We're seeing that stone breaking the 10 toes, and we're seeing the beginning of it. We're seeing it being used, or his army, which is the Medes of the Persians, being used. Let's go to Joel 2. We got a few verses after this. Joel 2. Joel 2 and verse 1. We're going to see it in more details. The more we read, the more details we're going to seek out. I kind of glossed through that Daniel 11 for the sake of time, because we probably just now finished it if I kept on going with it. But we have question and answer afterwards, and I don't mind going through it in detail. But Joel 2 and verse 1. Joel 2 and verse 1. Go ahead.
Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand.
Keep going.
A day of darkness and of gloominess.
So this is the day of the Lord. This is when he comes to take over everything. This is the fall of all Babylonian empires. Every single one of them. It will be no more after this. Go ahead.
A day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. And a great people and a strong.
And he using a great people, a strong to do it. A strong, great people to do this. Go ahead.
There hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations.
It will be nothing like this again. Verse 3.
A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness.
The Lord is using this people to conquer everything and destroy everything. We read already in Jeremiah that after he's get done, there'll be no more stone that can ever help rebuild Babylon. And we seeing it take place. They literally destroying everything. Verse 4.
Yea, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as of horsemen, so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap. Like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, and as a strong people set in battle array.
These are the Medes and the Persians. This is his people. Keep going.
Before their face the people shall be much pain. All faces shall gather blackness. They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war. And they shall march every one on his ways. And they shall not break their ranks.
Keep going.
Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his path. And when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded.
There's going to be so many people that once you kill one, it won't even hurt them. They won't be wounded. They will still be fully functioning no matter how many people you kill. Verse 9.
They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. The earth shall quake before them. the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shine.
So this is doing his, when he coming back. You can read that in Matthew 24. The sun be dark and the moon won't give their light. Verse 11.
And the Lord shall utter his voice before his army.
And the Lord called it his army. The Medo-Persians are his army that he's going to use to take over Babylon before he stepped forth. And the Lord shall utter his voice before his army. Go ahead.
For his camp is very great. For he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible.
Very terrible.
And who can abide it?
And who can abide it? Now go to the next chapter. Joel 3 and pick it up at verse 1. Joel 3 and verse 1. Go ahead.
For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem.
Because that's why everything is still surrounded by it. Even though, because don't forget, Daniel, they had the 70 weeks it was talking about. And Daniel was confused. Like, I thought we were going to get out of captivity. And the 70 weeks is past. The Lord said, no, it's 70 weeks of years. 70 times 7. After that, he's going to regather his people and get them out of captivity. So that's what all this is still about. It's still about the regathering of Israel and the freedom of Israel. Verse 2.
I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
So after he finishing this demolishing a third of the people with his army, then he's going to come. And he will gather all the nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Go ahead.
And will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel.
And that pleading isn't begging. That pleading is actual war. Go ahead.
Whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land.
Verse 3.
And they have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for a harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon?
And Tyre or Zidon and who else?
And all the coast of Palestine?
That's still part of the... Palestine was renamed by the Romans. It was Israel, but it was renamed Palestine. Or Tyre or Zidon. So we know exactly the individuals or the area he's talking about as well. Go ahead.
Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head.
Go ahead.
Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border.
Go ahead.
Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense on your own head.
So return all this back on your own head. So this is the fall of them. Now the Lord coming back and he's going to kill everybody. Even some of the Medes and the Persians. Everybody's going to be in the valley of Jehoshaphat. And this is when the Lord's going to use us as his battle axe, as it talked about in Jeremiah 51. We didn't read it though. But he's going to use us as his weapon. And we're going to go out and fight amongst all of them. And kill them all. Verse 8.
And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for the Lord hath spoken it.
The Lord, we already read that in Revelation. Those that was going in captivity, those who sold in captivity shall go into captivity. So we're seeing that taking place. Go ahead.
Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles.
Among the Gentiles, the Babylonian Empire, proclaim this. Go ahead.
Prepare war.
Prepare war.
Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord.
Keep going.
Let the heathen be wakened.
It said, cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Talking about us, if we be so lucky. And we're going to be the battle axe, like I said. Go ahead.
Let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe.
So the harvest is ripe. It's time for some killing. Go ahead.
Come, get you down, for the press is full, and the vats overflow, for their wickedness is great.
14.
Multitudes in the valley of decision, For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision.
And the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Last verse. Let's go to Revelation 19. And we're going to see the Lord actually killing people and taking over and making this land his, as we read in Daniel 2. So I kind of skipped through Daniel 11. Like I said, there's probably a lot of things that I missed out, but I'm here for a long time, and you guys got my number. But nevertheless, we see in Daniel 2 the rise of the Gentile dynasty, the Babylonian Empire, and the fall of it. And we took this hour, 2 hours or so to go through each kingdom and see their rise and their fall all the way down to Rome, where now this is the end of Rome, and the Lord is actually here killing off and taking over the land. Revelation 19 and 11. Go ahead.
And I saw heaven open, and behold, the white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war.
Verse 12.
His eyes were a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood.
He was clothed in a vesture dipped in blood. Go ahead.
And his name is called the Word of God.
Now we know this is Jesus by John 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was God. Verse 14.
And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean.
And he bringing the army with him from heaven. Verse 15.
And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and the wrath of Almighty God.
There go that winepress again we read earlier. Verse 16.
And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
So he the king of everything. He the Lord of everybody. Verse 17.
And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God.
So this massacre is called the supper of the great God for the animals. Verse 18.
That ye may eat the flesh of kings, and of the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and of the flesh of horses, and of them that sat on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great.
And verse 19.
And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth.
So this is the beast, the fourth beast, and all the kings of the earth that was reigned with them. Go ahead.
And their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army.
So that's in the valley of Jehoshaphat. We already read in Joel. Verse 20.
And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of burnt fire, burning with brimstone.
So the Lord just threw them straight in the lake of fire. Just right then and there. Just threw them there, and they stood there forever. 21.
And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh.
Now, I was going to keep going, but I hope you got some understanding in Jesus' name. Like I said, I know it's a longer lesson than what I normally do, but I'm willing to go over Daniel 11 if you guys like in more detail. That's that. Also, I'm trying to get another baptism going on, probably when I get back from Gary. I know 2 people want to get baptized. I've been waiting to see this any more that I rise, because I get a lot of text messages and emails about, not emails, Facebook messages about people want to get baptized, but I don't see them. So I don't know, I can't really do that. So I'm going to try to set something up when I get back. I'm going to try to find a location to see if Travis available as well. And we go and get that taken care of. I don't have anything else. Oh yeah, next week I won't be here. Travis won't be here. Leon won't be here. So I would like to try to keep going the feeding the homeless and doing a little lesson. So if you guys would like any volunteers, Dre said he's down with it, but that's only one man. So hopefully we get like at least 2 or 3 more people. Maybe they can go down there and just do a little quick 30-minute lesson, hand out 200 hot dogs, 200 things of water. You get a little crowd there too, so be prepared for some craziness because it does happen from time to time. So hopefully some of you guys are able to step up and help us out with that. I don't got nothing else. Should I be something?
Seventh announcements. We welcome you and hope today's lessons increased your knowledge of the Holy Bible. Adult question and answer will begin 1 hour after the lesson ends. We have question and answer every Wednesday, 5 p.m. by telephone conference line. The number and access code are located at the top of the lesson, or see the live stream of question and answer at www.thy-kingdom-come7.com. If you are interested in being baptized, please place your name on the list at the literature table. Remember to follow the dress code when attending our services. Men should remove all hats and all head coverings during service time. Women should wear a head covering, such as a hat or a scarf, during the service. Women should not wear tight-fitting pants or skirts or revealing clothing. Attire should be modest according to the Bible. If a child becomes restless during the Bible lesson, we encourage you to remove your child from the room until he or she has settled. Your tithes and offerings are always appreciated. Please place your tithes and offerings in an offering envelope and deposit it in the offering box. Your cooperation is greatly appreciated. Again, thank you for coming, and we hope to see you on the next Sabbath. Peace.
Peace. Once again.